I was excited to get your call or your text the other day. So, I love helping people get started investing and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I was talking to Jonah when we went to lunch, and I was like, "Yeah, I just don't know really what I want to do or how I want to do it or whatever." And he was like, "Dude, you just need to call my dad and just talk it over with him and see what he says, and then just see."
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I've had some good experience. I've done really well for myself investing, but I've also when I was young, I made a ton of mistakes, man. And I've learned a lot, probably more from the mistakes I made than from my successes. So, but I'll tell you this, when I got home from my mission, I started investing like right away, and it made a huge difference. My only regrets are that as I made some decisions early on, like we took a big chunk out of our investments to put a down payment on a house, and which is not like, it's not a terrible tragedy or anything like that. But I think about if I had just been saving on the side for something like that, and that money, if it was still working for me from when we bought our house, would probably worth like, five, six, $700,000 by now if I had just left it in stocks. And if I had put
mhm.
it into Bitcoin earlier when I first started buying Bitcoin, I mean, it could be worth like maybe as much as a couple million. It's just like, so those are just things you learn over time and whatnot. So
Yeah.
what are you doing right now? Like, are you going to school? Are you working? A little bit of both?
Yeah, so right now I'm working with Nexstar, so just working with my dad until the beginning of the year, till January, and then I'm going up to Rexburg to go to BYUI.
Nice. Nice. Do you know what you want to study once you get up there?
No, so the first semester, I'm gonna go and just take all like some general classes and kind of just start, and then kind of see if I could plan out where I want to go and what I want to study.
Nice. That's good. I do think man, I had so many different majors that I filtered through when I was going through college to try to figure out when you're like 18 to 25 years old what you're going to do for the rest of your life is, for some people, they totally know. They're like, oh, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to be a doctor. I'm going to be a lawyer. I'm going to be a school teacher, whatever. And they do it and they get into the career and they love it. But I think most of us were like, we have really no idea what it is we love doing. And I think it's good to go out there and get some work. Like, I did work a ton of different jobs, and each one helped me learn a little something. Like, I like this, I don't like that. You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
that's a good approach. You're going to figure out your thing. You'll probably hit some dead ends every now and then, but that's fine. Do you like the construction business?
I do like it was good for a long time, and I think I really like it for what it was, but I don't, it's not something that like I want to pursue and like want to stay in like long term.
Gotcha. It's not, you don't love it then. Like,
Mm-mm.
it's good, it's solid, but you're not passionate about it.
Yeah, if I had the choice between like this and like something else that like would catch my eye, like I would take
Yeah.
something in.
Yeah, gotcha. Well, good, good. What about like financial goals when you think about investing and stuff like that? Like, what do you want to achieve with it? Like, what do you see? Why are you interested in investing?
Yeah, so before my mission, I was kind of trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my money because obviously, like to me, it's never made sense putting money in a savings account without any interest. That's just doing nothing for you.
Yep.
And so, like
Yep.
for what I'm wanting to do, it's kind of more just like, what can I do to most set myself up for the future with just how crazy things are right now? And I
Yeah.
figure if things are like this right now, like if it's just going to keep going and going, I would just rather have as much information that I can right now and then start as opposed to like just never doing it and then procrastinating. Like I already have before my mission, I put money into like a CD, like a high yield savings account, and so there's a high yield CD that I get at the end of this month. And so I'll get all my money back from that. And I made like, I think 500. And then I put a couple hundred into Bitcoin and a couple hundred into different stocks. And so
Nice.
I dabbled with it a little bit before my mission. Looking back now, do I wish that I just put the 5 grand into Bitcoin? Yes, but I
Yeah.
didn't. I put it into a CD because I was like, oh, well, it's guaranteed $600 and it's not as much of a gamble. But then like my Bitcoin and my stocks went up twice, like two times
Yep.
what that I put in, and I was like, "Ah,
Yep.
frick." And
Yeah.
so I wanted to do that, and then I just opened a couple weeks ago, I opened a high yield savings account through Capital One. And
Uh
so
huh.
that's what I'm gonna start just putting all of my savings in. That way it's not just like sitting in Wells Fargo doing nothing.
Yeah. That's a good start for sure. And you know what? Those savings accounts, CDs, maybe not CDs as much, but like things that earn interest for you, like a money market account, a high yield savings. they have their place and they're useful. I love Bitcoin. Like anybody who talks to me for any amount of time knows I'm a Bitcoin junkie. I buy as much Bitcoin as I can whenever I free up money, I put it long term, invest it in Bitcoin. But if I need money sometime between now and the next 4 years, I don't put it in Bitcoin, right? Because Bitcoin is volatile. Have you ever heard that term before?
Mhm.
Volatile. So volatile means that in the short term, the price of something goes up and down a lot.
Mhm.
And so a lot of people associate this with risk. It's risky. It goes up and down so much. Risk, I like to look at risk is what is its track record? What's its history? Like how does it do over the long term? Like over the short term, if you need, let's say you've got $5,000 that you may need sometime in the next year to pay for your rent up at school, right? Or tuition or something like that. You're definitely going to spend it in the next year. But in the meantime, you want to be earning something from it, right?
Mhm.
In that case, I would say looking at the track record of Bitcoin over short term periods, you just never know where the price is going to be. It could explode and it could drop by
Mhm.
80%. And it's done both of those. Like since I've been investing in it, 3 times it is like dropped by like 75% the price. I will hit like an all-time high, and within a few months, it's now at 80% of what it was. I mean, it's still worth more than it was 4 years ago, but
Mhm.
it's not worth what it was 4 months ago. And if you put money in there that you need over the next year, 4 years, you could get burned. And I've had some periods
Yeah.
where my Bitcoin, not all of it, but I bought some Bitcoin in, I can't remember, sometime in 2021. It was about $55,000. Um, it was after the all time high. It had dropped, but it hit like $69,000, and then it dropped back down to like 50, 55. And I'm like, oh, that's a big drop. I'm gonna buy some, and so I bought a big chunk, and it dropped from there, and it didn't get back up to 55 for probably like 3 years or so.
Yeah.
So but my other Bitcoin, like people would tell me, they'd be like, oh, like you're the Bitcoin guy, like you're hating life right now. And I'm like, oh, well, no, I'm not, because most of my Bitcoin I bought like, 7, 8 years ago, and it's doing great even after the big drop. But my Bitcoin that I bought 4 months ago,
For
yeah,
months,
it's
one second.
tanking right now. But now, and that's what you got to understand about volatility and stuff like that. So if you have some money that you need right now over the next year, 2 years, 3 years, definitely your money market account or your high yield savings are good places, better places to put it, because you can get it to it relatively quickly when you need it. And so that's good. But you want to set up, Aaron, for 20 years from now to be in a great position. So that, like when I talk to my kids, I'm telling them all growing up, I told them like, hey, here's how you ought to, this is how I do my money, and this is what I recommend you do. But,
Mhm.
you pay your 10%, pay your tithing, pay the next 20% to you long, and this is your long-term savings, and you can adjust this. But I will tell you this, you could put, some people say 10%, but there's a difference in time. Like if you put in 20% of your um, earnings, good, low risk, high reward investments like Bitcoin. Index funds are not bad either. They don't have the same performance, but they do grow your buying power over time, not just the dollar amounts of money. Because there's things like short term savings, like it's good for the short term, but if you're trying to grow your money long term with it, your money will grow. You'll get like put $10,000 in there, and each year you'll get $400 or $500, right? But the
Mhm.
bad part about that is inflation is eating up your buying power. So what you could buy for $10,000 in 2025, even after you add the interest that you'll earn over the next 5 years, you're going to be able to buy less even after you earn money.
Earn the
So you need
interest.
something for the long term that's low risk. And when I say low risk, I mean over a certain period of time, it has a track record of doing well, like
Yeah.
Bitcoin. Like over the long term, Bitcoin does really good. If you look at any 4 year period, there's no 4 year period of during Bitcoin where at the beginning of the period or at the end of the period, it was lower in price than at the beginning of the period.
Mhm.
But in the short term, there's definitely a lot of examples where
Yeah.
I bought Bitcoin now, and a year later, it's worth half of what it was when I bought it. That will
Mhm.
happen. So you just got to plan those things out. But Bitcoin for the long term is awesome. Index for funds for the long term are very good. And why I say like 20% versus 10%, um, it shortens the time to where you're going to reach financial freedom and be able to live off of these things. Like me personally, I don't ever plan on retiring, but I want to be able to work on things. And I've gotten my position and myself in a position now where I can work on whatever I want. I don't have to worry about the money coming in. You know, we don't live like kings or anything like that, but we live good, and I can work on whatever I want. I have a project I'm working on right now, and it may take another year or so until it's producing the kind of income I want, but I'm okay with that. Like it's I'm working on something that I love to work on. I want to do that for the rest of my life, but I do want to always have that financial freedom fund of mine that is always healthy and good and strong. So if whether I work, whether I don't work, I can work whatever I want to, wherever I want to, whenever I want to, and I'm good. And I want you to get to that position too. And so when you save 20% versus 10%, it shortens that time period. And the thing of it with someone your age, if you're honest with yourself, you can live off very little right now. You know what I mean? You don't have the expenses that a married person has. And if you start
Mhm.
building habits right now, and I know people who have done this, and I didn't do it when I was first married, but I met a guy who did. He was always a good saver, and he was going to invest in one of my earlier businesses, and we were having talks, and we got into money talks, and he is one of those guys that he was working a very ordinary job, average income, but he was putting away 20%, 20%, 20% into index funds at the time. Well, he got to a point where he was like 15 years into his career, and he was almost financially free. And his life even got better after that, because he was a longshoreman out in Long Beach, California. His position, he wasn't an actual longshoreman, he was like an IT guy, but his position got unionized. So overnight, his salary tripled,
Went
and
crazy.
it went crazy. And now he's, oh my gosh. And so in the matter of the next couple of years, he just continued to live off, because he'd always been living off of 80% or less of what he made, actually 70% or less, because he was paying his tithing. He's an LDS guy, paying 20% to his investments and living off the other 70%. So now his income tripped, and he took everything extra that he was getting and put it into there. And over the next 3 years, he was totally financially free. He continued to work, but now there's just this, I don't know, it's very liberating and very empowering when you get to that point in your life. And if you can do it in the next 20 years instead of the next 30 or 40 years,
Mhm.
you're, you know, 40 something year old Aaron is going to love you for
Mhm.
thinking ahead and planning ahead. And it is easy to live with inside of a budget like that when you're young. Like I was telling, I taught my kids 10% tithing, 20% for your long-term investments and whatnot, and then another 20% for short-term savings. So, and a couple of my kids are super good about this, and they have been investing, and their portfolios are just, for someone in their early 20s, they're doing phenomenal. It's amazing. I'm so proud of them. But they've also been saving this other 20% for short-term stuff. Like my daughter Minnie, I don't know if you ever met her. She
Uh-huh.
loves to travel. So she's always taking these super fun trips, and she's really not even putting a dent, but she's got that 20%. Plus, she's also saving up or planning on, maybe at some point she buys a house or whatever. And that's what you're doing. Like maybe you'll need a down payment for a car. That's what that 20% is for. And there are people who learn to live off of like half of what they're making and save this way. And they just financially, they get ahead so much faster than anybody else. And
Mhm.
when things hit the fan, like you were talking about, they've got funds that they can fall back onto and get them through tough periods, tight periods, or whatnot. So I throw that out there. You need to figure out what works best for you. You could do 5% of your total earnings, 10%. One of my daughters that's going through school right now, she does a lot smaller part. She's really worried about having enough for right now. She lives on a really tight budget. I get it, but I'm always encouraging her just to up it a little bit more, up it a little bit more, because you down the road, you're going to be fine here. You're a very resourceful person, very self-reliant, but down the road, you're going to appreciate that you set yourself up for future success. And it's so much easier now at your age than people who are starting with a family. a house payment, car payments, 2 car payments, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So just something to think about. And then what you invest in and how you invest in are also important. Do you know what Roth IRA is? Have you ever heard that term before?
Yeah, so that was the next thing that I was going to start doing is I was going to open a Roth IRA and then start that.
Awesome.
I've
That's a
thought
great
about
place to go.
doing that as well.
Another one that's really good, I don't know what your insurance situation is like, and we could talk about this later offline, but my favorite investing account is actually a health savings account, an HSA. And what I love about it is an HSA. What I love about the Roth IRA is that you pay tax on your money before you put it into the Roth IRA, but it grows tax free. And when you go and pull it out, 30 years from now when you're retiring, you'll pay no taxes on the gains, which is
Mhm.
awesome, right? Especially at your age. What are you right now? 20, 21?
21.
So, you won't really even be able to use it till you're into your 50s. You can pull it out earlier, but you will pay a penalty, like a 10%,
Mhm.
which is smaller than the tax you would pay on it. And you may be in a position that you want to do that at some point in time. But the think of what if you can put 1,000, 2,000, 5,000 bucks in the next year into a Roth IRA, what's that going to be like 30 years from now when
Mhm.
it's awesome. So why I like the HSA even better, you don't have to pay taxes on the money you put into it, right? So if you have an HSA set up properly, you can contribute, a single person can put up to like 4,500, 46,700, something like that a year into it without having to pay tax on that money. So you'll get a bigger tax return is what that ends up being.
Mhm.
And then same thing on the other end of it, you won't pay taxes on the growth and the earnings that happen in that HSA. And there's places like Fidelity. That's where I have most people open up accounts. Fidelity has an HSA that you can invest in. You could put it in Bitcoin. So you could put it in index funds, right? And then I tell people, hey, listen, set up the HSA. Do not use it for health expenses. Save a little extra money on the side for your health expenses because it's too valuable as an investing account. And we could talk about that offline and make sure that's a fit for you or not if you're interested in going that route. But even if you just started with a Roth IRA, that that's a great place to start. And I would definitely, and that's what I started with. When I was your age and just got home from my mission, they didn't have Roth IRAs. They just had IRAs. So I got to put money into it tax free, and I would have to pay taxes at some future date when I pulled it out. But I ended up rolling it over into a Roth IRA, paying a fee to do that to the government, so they got their taxes, and then it started growing tax free after that. But I
Gotcha.
love it. As soon as I heard about that option, I'm like, oh, I'm doing that because I want to pay no taxes when I take it out. So that is a good step. You definitely want to put it in some place like Fidelity. Fidelity will allow you to buy a Bitcoin in there and index funds. It gives you better options. I used to be a big Vanguard guy, but Vanguard has never been friendly with being able to buy Bitcoin and things like that. But they do have good index fund options. And so those are the type of accounts you should use. And then the type of investment that I recommend people use and that I've used very successfully. And I don't know if Jonah or anybody's told you, but back in 2013, we had a business that, with the Great recession back in 2008, 2009, we sold cybersecurity products and services. But we were like a middleman. We were selling other people's stuff, and we just got caught in the middle. And people weren't paying us, but we still had to pay our vendors, and we were like millions of dollars in debt. It took us like 4 years pretty much to get out of debt, and we had gotten behind in our house payments during the time. We ended up filing bankruptcy in order to protect our house, and so in 2013 I had to start all over. And so the things that I'm recommending to you today are the things that I actually used starting in 2013 to rebuild my wealth. And I was putting actually more than 20% in, because during that time period we learned to live on such a small budget. Like, it was just tiny. People would, we talk to family members and stuff and tell them how much we were spending a month, and they're like, "Oh, how do you survive?" And we were just like, "Dude, just like barely," you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
we're doing it. But then once things got better, we were able to, just like that friend of mine that his income tripled overnight and he put like 2/3 of it into his investments. It was the same thing. Like, business started picking up again. We were doing good in sales, and we just kept a really tight budget, and I put tons of money in. And just at a little over 7 years, we had gotten back to like a high net worth. And it was just such a good experience for me, good learning opportunity. But that's why I recommend these things to people, because it works, right? I've used it myself. It's done great for us. And that's the difference between if you're putting like 10% in versus 20%. I think if you put 10% in starting now, I would say in 30 years or so, you're going to be financially free if you continually put 10% in. Whatever your income has grown to by then, if you put this in the right accounts like Roth IRAs and HSAs, you buy the right investments that are low risk, high reward, like Bitcoin, like index funds, you're going to, in about, if you do 10%, I would say in about 30 years, you're going to be able to be financially free, retire, whatever you want to call that. If you put 20%, I think it's going to be 20 years or less that you'll be able to get to that point. And then if you go beyond that, like we did for a while, like my friend did, you may find in less than 10 years that you're in a point where you're financially free. Doesn't mean you won't work, but now it just opens up so much opportunity for you to like, I don't know how much you've noticed this. I don't know if you've had friends or family members, other adults that you know that are like feel like they're stuck in a certain job, a certain career, a certain business. I've seen it a lot just because of life experiences and people, and it's a little bit depressing for people to get to feel
Hmm.
like you're stuck in this job that I would like to do something else, but I can't take a pay cut to go do something else, right? Or I can't take the chance. And it's sad sometimes. It really puts a weight, and it can be depressing for people. So if you can get to a point where you don't have to worry about that, and now you can go work on, you can say, hey, look, this career was fine, which very well may happen. You may be working in something 5, 6, 7, 10 years and have enjoyed it, but now you're saying, I need something different. And I did that with cybersecurity. I got to a point where like, I need a new business. I got to start something new because I don't have any joy in this business anymore. And so when you're financially free, you have so much more flexibility to do that kind of stuff. There's another term, I don't know if you've ever heard it, and it's called FU money, but it's from another guy who I follow. A lot of people have used it. There was a quote in a movie where they quoted it, but it's essentially what it does is you're not financially free yet, but you've got enough money saved up that you could live for 2 or 3 years while you figure out a better situation so you don't have to be stuck. And that's what that
Hmm.
means. You have that option to say, F you to the boss, or like, hey, I see ya. I'm done. Like, I'm not going to work here anymore. This is not healthy. And you've
Hmm.
got that protection, that buffer. And that's like a middle point between like starting off in life with really nothing and getting financial free. There is that area that you get to where there's got to be a better way to describe that than FU money, but you've got the take a hike money or whatever you want to call it, right? Where
Yeah.
you have that flexibility and the option to start something new, start something new, get yourself out of a bad situation, stuff like that. But these are all like milestones along this. But yeah, so any questions about anything that I've said so far, anything I didn't cover that you want to know more about?
No, that really is definitely helpful. I think the biggest thing is that, um, yeah, I was thinking about Bitcoin. I was thinking about, Jono had mentioned. So right now, like what I use for all of my stocks and all of my like crypto is I use Robinhood, just because that
Yeah,
was one of the super popular ones. And for a long time, like
yeah.
I had a Robinhood Gold account, and so I was earning like all of like those types of perks. But then Jono said that there's a different app that you would recommend going through that's a little bit more secure. So like, what would you recommend as far as like, should I keep Robinhood because I've used it for so long, or should I try to switch, or should I?
So here's what I would do with Robinhood. I need to look into Robinhood again. When I looked into it a few years ago, I wasn't a big fan of Robinhood, because especially with Bitcoin, because you couldn't send your Bitcoin to other Bitcoin addresses. And so when you can buy it through them and they say, "Hey, you've got this Bitcoin," but if you can't actually send it to another Bitcoin address, my personal feeling is you don't really own Bitcoin, right? They may have some Bitcoin that they bought in your name, or they may not. They may have just taken your money and put it somewhere else. The financial regulations on Wall Street can be very flexible for the Robin Hoods and the Vanguards, the Fidelities, and to let
Uh-huh.
them move money around and say we own it. Like, they don't require them to hold everything in Bitcoin if a customer's bought Bitcoin. And so I worry about that. Now, I've been talking to some people recently who say things have changed at Robinhood, and that now you can buy Bitcoin. at Robinhood. Their rates are supposedly a lot lower, like 1% or lower, which is a very good rate for buying Bitcoin.
Mhm.
And you can send it off. And I'm going to actually go in the next week. I'm going to buy like $100 of Bitcoin from like 10 different places, and Robinhood's one of them. So I'm going to set up a new Robinhood account and I'm going to check it out. In the meantime, the two recommendations that I would make for you: one, I love Cash App, because with Cash App, you can buy everything you need to buy in terms of Bitcoin and other things. The only drawback with Cash App is, and I have to look at this too, because I haven't looked at this lately. Last time I looked at it, you couldn't open a Roth IRA or an HSA with Cash App. And I don't know if you can do that with Robinhood or not. Were you looking at doing that with Robinhood?
Yeah, so I was with the Roth IRA, I think there was that one I hadn't looked into, like, doing that a ton. Like, I the idea was there, because what kind of is happening is that I have money saved up and money that I made a deal with my dad that
Mm-hmm.
I am going to invest. And so when we went to go buy my truck, he said, "This is your budget. If you stay under the budget, whatever you don't spend is what I'll give you, and you have to invest it." And so
Nice.
that's kinda like the money that I'm trying to figure out what I wanna do right now, if I wanna put it in, like, short-term stuff just to see if I can kind of get it flowing, and then whatever comes from that is what I invest, like, long term, or kind of just get a system going to where over the next 3, 4 years, I kind of have this system of like, "Okay, well, this is what I wanna go do, and then this is what I take from this, and then that's how I put it into that." Or if
Gotcha.
it's smarter right now, just to go and get a Roth IRA and then to put all of the money towards that, and then to just kind of see that through, and then let it go like it's kind of supposed to.
Yep. Well, I just did a Perplexity search, and it looks like Robinhood offers Roth IRAs. And if you're comfortable with Robinhood, you like it already, and you have the option to either buy Bitcoin directly, which some companies are offering now. Fidelity is starting to offer it. They have a Roth IRA that you can buy actual Bitcoin in, or you can buy a Bitcoin ETF, which is like it's a simple uh it's almost like a company, but all the company does is buy a certain thing, right? Like an index
Mhm.
fund or Bitcoin. There's ETFs for gold. Do you know what ETFs are? Have you heard of them
Yeah. Yeah,
before? Okay,
I have, like
perfect. Good. So if you can buy a Bitcoin ETF and if that's an option in Robinhood, I think you're fine. I usually recommend people go with Fidelity though for long-term stuff, because Fidelity has so many more options. Especially, I work with a lot of self-employed or business owners, and they have options where they can put money into accounts that are tax advantaged that I don't know if Robinhood has or not. But I hear Robinhood is really low on fees, and most places like Fidelity and Robinhood, I know for Fidelity, but I don't know about Robinhood, they don't charge commissions when you buy ETFs and things like that, which is really nice. So
mhm.
so your purchasing price is lower for those things. So if you're comfortable with Robinhood and you can buy Bitcoin in it or a Bitcoin ETF, and I can send you over a couple of index funds that I've bought in the past as well. Right
Mhm.
now, all my money my long term money goes into Bitcoin just because the returns are so much better. And I'm okay with the volatility. I'm okay that in the short term that
It's
money,
gonna
that price is
fluctuate, yeah.
gonna fluctuate. Yeah. And it sounds like you're in a similar situation too, where you're in it for the long haul with this chunk of money that you agreed on with your dad.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, I don't think Robinhood would be a bad way to go as long as you can get those options. And if you want to balance out your portfolio a little bit more and buy some index funds and some Bitcoin, that would be another way to go. Are you interested in like picking stocks, picking individual cryptos? Do you like to like I think it's a little bit like gambling. It's not a little bit.
So it kind of
It's
feels like
gambling.
that. Yeah,
It
it really
is.
does. So I did that before my mission. We had a project. I'm sure like Cruz probably talked to you about it
Yeah.
in like consumer in like our
Yeah.
economics class. And like
Right.
I was like I obsessed over it. And so like every day I was like checking, and every day I would like by morning I was like, frick, like, I wish that this was actually like my real money, because I at the end of it I made like probably like I made like over 100 grand. I was like, freaking crap. Like I wish that
Yeah.
was what it
Real
actually is. And
money.
so I'm all
Yeah.
for like if there's different ones that like pop out to me, and there's different things that I see, then like I've in the past that's kind of what I did. I have shares of like different stocks that were just kind of like not like a penny stock, but like I threw a little bit of money at, like probably like $50 at a couple different ones just to
Yeah.
see over the next couple of years, like what they would do. Cause they were kind of like on the rise of like, oh, hey, this could potentially kind of go somewhere, which I'm getting like, I kick myself with because when I was like 17, before I was able like old enough to invest, I wanted to put like almost $1,000 that I had at the time into VOO, which is like Vanguard's,
Yeah.
and literally
Yeah.
it was like almost under $100, and I would have like taken it because it's like at like $1,000 right now. I was like, oh my gosh, are you kidding me? And so like I'm all for like different stocks and different things like that, different ETFs that are like
Yeah.
projected higher to go and do that.
And so something else I'll tell you too. So first of all, VOO is an S&P 500 index fund. So
Hmm.
it is not, that is not gambling in the sense that picking an individual stock. Like if you were like all in on Tesla because you think Tesla's going to blow up
That's
in
just
the
gonna
next
go to
year,
the moon.
double
And
or whatever, that's a
hmm.
much bigger risk and a chance
Yeah,
than buying VOO because VOO
it's like the
is something
combination of like the top 500 companies or whatever it
exactly.
is.
Yep. And so over time, they're going to change those. But that's one where, again, in my measurement of risk, what is the track record? And the track
Yeah, it's
record of the
always.
S&P 500 is fantastic over like, I don't know when it was I think it was in the 70s. I don't hold me to that. But for at least the last 50 years, you can look at it and go, man, that thing's grown by 10, 11% every year
Hmm.
on average, right? That is a great track record. To me, that is a low risk, high
High
reward
reward
investment,
type of
right?
investment.
But if you're holding bonds for that same period of time, or you have it in a high yield savings account, that's what I would call like a guaranteed risk because your buying power is always going down over time. Even though the dollar amount in the account keeps going up, your buying
Hmm.
power keeps going down because inflation is eating into it and it doesn't keep pace with inflation. So that's what I would call it's not I wouldn't call it a high risk. I would call a high risk investment something that has like no track record or a very small track record. Like a buddy comes to you and says, "Hey, Aaron, I got this new widget that I'm making and I'm going to make millions off of it." Well, this guy has
Hmm.
no track record of in business
In
whatsoever, right?
business, yeah.
And I've seen people do this. I've seen people go give 50,000, $100,000 to neighbors, friends, family members that have promised them that this thing's going to blow up, but really they have no experience with what they're doing. And almost inevitably, the money gets lost, right? That is high risk to me, something that has
Hmm.
no track record, no way of showing how things have a long term ability to grow and earn for you. And so that's the different kind of risk, like low risk, where it's a proven track record over a long period of time,
Hmm.
guaranteed risk, where that you're not losing a lot, but you're steadily losing buying power. That's a guaranteed risk. That's not a good long-term place for your money. It's a good short-term place for your money.
Hmm.
And then the high risk things you just want to avoid whatsoever. Honestly, if you need a really high risk thing, go buy lottery tickets. I'm not even joking. Just go buy one lottery ticket away. If that is what you need to satisfy your itch to have a crazy gamble, do that because your odds of winning are probably better than investing $100,000 with
And
your neighbor
yeah,
who's
into
got
some
this
like
great
little stock
idea.
that's supposed to blow up, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh.
Right. Or penny stocks, same thing. But
Hmm.
what I would say is this I tell this to people all the time, think in decades instead of days. What do you want your position to be 30, 20, 30, 40 years from now? Right. When we take those gambles and do high risk things, when we play the stock market, when we're watching it every day, we're thinking in terms of days. We want to make money now. And
Hmm.
you want to build an investing mindset that no, I want wealth long term. I want financial freedom long term. I want it for decades. I don't want to just get rich in the next week. Not that anybody would turn that down, but the odds of it
Yeah.
happening are so small. But the
Hmm.
odds of you getting wealthy and financially free over 10, 20, 30 years are very good. People do it all the time. This is not something that's like, people made this up. I know so many people who are financially free that are either my age, that are 10 years older than me, 20 years older than me, retired, different. They've gotten there in different ways, but most of them have owned things like index funds and things like that. And that has been like the basis of their wealth. And now they are wealthy as opposed to being rich. I like to call it wealthy because that's where your money is in a position to provide for all your wants and needs, right?
Hmm.
You may not there's people who are wealthy that maybe have hundreds of thousands of dollars, $1 million. Some smaller amount, but they're able to live off of that amount of money indefinitely. So they're not necessarily rich, but they are wealthy because they've set up this system that pays for their living, right?
Yeah.
And that's where I want people to get. That's why I want you to think in terms of decades instead of days. You want to be making moves today that benefit you 10, 20, 30 years from now,
Yeah.
and using those accounts, using investments. Like if you ever do get into picking stocks and stuff like that, I would say I have this rule that I call 1 5 10. And like if and there's I'll have to go dig it up. I put some thought into it, but you should never have more than 10% of your money into high risk or speculative investments.
Yeah.
It's just, you can recover from 10%. But here's the other thing, and this is what plays into 1, 5, and 10. If you're going to lose sleep over it, if you're going to be checking every day and stressing out, then you need to put even less than 10%. You need to go 5%.
Yeah.
If it's going to wreck you emotionally, you may need to just do 1% speculative or none. But I would
Mhm.
just say gauge yourself there. There's been so many times in my life where I heard about this amazing stock and I threw some money at it. And I can't think of one that ever panned out
Ever
for me.
ever
And even worse, I told friends about it. Like, there's this one friend of mine, Adam, that every time we get like stocks comes up, he tells me the ticker
remember that one
symbol of
time you
this.
told me to buy that and we bought them and we
Exactly.
went
Yeah,
broke?
he'll
Yeah.
say something like, "Remember triple CD?" And I'm like, "How can I forget?" And he just laughs because I told him, "Dude, this is the future." It wasn't. It totally tanked.
Mm.
But fortunately, neither one of us put a lot of money into it. So,
Yeah.
but yeah,
Yeah, with individual stocks and stuff like that, it's like I think the most I've ever thrown at one like that is like probably like $15. Just like
yeah,
something little to where it's like, okay, if I lose it, is it the end of the world? No,
yeah.
whatever happens.
Yeah. And the cool thing about that too is if when you put a small amount like that, so you throw $50 in at most, right? And let's say it doubles over a short period of time, $100. That's not like amazing. But if your ego needs it, you can always tell people, oh yeah, I doubled my money on this
Double my
investment
money on this investment. Yeah.
in, less than a year. You know what I mean? So you get your bragging rights, but you're not putting your future on the
At
line. You're not
risk.
putting, you're thinking in decades still. You're not putting 30, 40, 50-year-old Aaron in a worse spot because you're making
Yeah.
risky moves today.
No, absolutely.
Cool. Any other questions?
No, I think that that's definitely helped me out a lot. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no worries. One last thing I'll say too, I definitely recommend you buy real Bitcoin too and make that a big part of your investment, or at least what I tell people new to Bitcoin, but you've been there. I think you probably already realized the power of Bitcoin from your experience putting money into it before your mission and whatnot.
Uh-huh.
I tell people buy $500 a year, which ends up being like $10 a week. And you can do that at a Bitcoin only exchange like Swan Bitcoin. You could do it in Cash App too. But if you at least have that $500 a year, it is going to produce in 20 years from now like tremendous results for you. And so I'm always telling people, look, I know you may not be a big Bitcoin fan, it may worry you, but you can buy a small amount. If
Mhm.
you're buying $500 a year, which may seem like a little bit more to you right now, but like that's going to be a small amount for you in a very short a time, for a short amount of time. And $10 a week, anybody can find $10 a week to put into some Bitcoin. I it I tell people it has the potential to become $50,000 in 20 years, right? And so if you're buying $500 a year, and once you're 40 and whatnot, and you have an extra $50,000 to play with every year, that's a significant amount of money,
Mhm.
right? So definitely think about Bitcoin, buying it on a regular basis, buying real Bitcoin and moving it onto a wallet. I have a community on School. I don't know if you've ever heard of School, Skool. That's the whole purpose of that community, is to help people. And I can text you a link to the community, but I just
Yeah,
help people
please
get
do.
started and just like buy it from a good place and then set it up to where you're automatically buying it and then automatically transferring it to a safe Bitcoin wallet that you've set up. And it's just going to open other options for you in terms of, like you said, things get crazy sometimes. Who knows if 20 years from now you're going to want to move to another country, right? You
Mhm.
may find it may be really hard to move your wealth out of the United States to another place. But Bitcoin, you can take it across borders like that. You know what I mean? There are some ways to use and store Bitcoin where if you can just remember 12 words, you can take all your wealth with you to another country and set up a new wallet once you get there, and you will be in a good place financially. So I don't think that's going to happen. I think the probability of that happening is really low, but is it possible? Could we hit some really, really bad times to where people are thinking of moving to another place? It happens. It happens
Mhm.
in other countries today. So, but I would definitely say make Bitcoin, buying real Bitcoin, a part of your wealth building plan for yourself.
Perfect. Okay, and so kind of like the last
Cool.
question that I have. So I think roughly like right now, the like dollar amount that I do have that I'm looking to invest for like long term is like between like, and so
Uh
would you
huh.
suggest going and starting a Roth IRA, and then because isn't there like a cap with how much you can put?
Yes, there is.
So
Yep.
should I go and do that and then put as much into that as I can, and then with the sum that I can't put that into other investments and Bitcoin and other ETFs?
Yeah. Yeah, that's probably exactly what I'd have you do, is put the max you can into your Roth IRA for this year's contribution, which I think is going to be like 5,000, 5,500, or something like that. And then you put the rest in real Bitcoin. And then next year, uh, you could put some more money into, you could leave it there. It depends. Like, I like having at least 50% of my Bitcoin in real Bitcoin on a Bitcoin wallet. But there's money that I have that, for tax reasons, are going to go into a Roth IRA or something similar to it, or an
Mhm,
HSA. And that money I will buy in a bit, I'll buy Bitcoin in an ETF. But my kids are a little bit more conservative than I am. And they'll put it into their Roth IRAs, and they'll buy like 50% Bitcoin and 50% index funds, like a VOO. Another one that I like is QQQ, because it doesn't have, it's NASDAQ, it's technology companies. It doesn't have um, any financial companies, no banks in it. And so it performs better over time. I want to say, like, since 2010, VOO has gone up like 500% or something like that. And QQQ has gone up like uh, over 1,000%, like
uh,
over 10 times in that period. So you can tell over time, year to year, it's a small difference, but over time, it gets bigger and bigger. So I would be putting it, if you're going to put it into an index fund, something like that, like a VOO. VTI is another one I like, QQQ. But that's where, if it was my money, that's where I would be putting. If it's my kids' money and they're saying, Dad, I don't want to do all Bitcoin, I want to do some index funds, that's where I've recommended they put their money, and they've done very well with it. I mean, even just an S&P 500 fund since 2020 has doubled in value.
mhm,
So, if you had put your $5,000 into it back then, it'd be worth 10,000 now. But that's the funny thing. My kids are starting to put more and more in Bitcoin, because they're looking at the same time and going, "Well, my Bitcoin's up like 4 times, and this only doubled." And they're like, "Oh, is it okay if I put them?" Well, it's, you do whatever you want to do.
uh-huh,
But I would put more in Bitcoin because it has the better track records.
mhm,
But yeah, that's a good plan. I like your plan. Put as much as you can this year, 5,000, 5,500, whatever the amount is, maybe up to 6,000 now. And then you can buy Bitcoin with the rest. If you need some help setting up a wallet, and doing all that stuff, we can do another meeting, or we can meet in person. I can walk you through it. Setting up
yeah,
some of the stuff is really easy, but some of it helps to do it in person just the first time.
yeah,
I've
that was
done it
gonna
with
be
a lot of
the next
people.
question is if there's a good time that even I could just come
Yeah,
in.
we could do that. And honestly, if you have anybody else that that's interested, bring them along too, because it's a good thing to teach in a group.
Mhm,
And I'll teach you how to set up a wallet, how to get a Bitcoin only exchange account going. And then the next step would be to get a metal wallet set up. And that's when you set up a Bitcoin wallet, you usually get like a 12-word phrase that's your recovery phrase, that if you ever need to set up your wallet on a new phone, or wherever, you use that phrase to recreate your wallet. And what I like to do is I like to buy what's called a metal wallet. And the one that I use is Bill Fodtle, and it has little trays in it and little tiles that come with it. And you slide the tiles in until you spell out the 12 words that are your recovery phrase. Then it has a little piece of tamper proof tape. You slide the cover on it, put the tamper proof tape on it, and now it's waterproof, fireproof. You store it in a safe place, like a safe
uh-huh,
or a safe deposit box or something like that. And if you ever need to rebuild your wallet for some reason, you open up your metal wallet, you can rebuild it on a new phone, a tablet, a computer, whatever, and you get access. And there's some other ways as you get more and more Bitcoin and you want to be more and more safe. There's some other services that you can use where they'll help guard your keys for you. So it's more like a bank kind of a situation where you can call them up and reset your password whenever you need to and get access to your funds. So you can set that up as well if you want to have, if you don't want to just take care of it yourself, or if you want to back up to taking care of it
Mhm.
yourself, you can do that. Because as you keep investing in Bitcoin and it gets worth more and more and more, you're going to start to worry more about it. I got to keep this safe. I got to have backups in place, right? So I can help you with some of those things too, showing you what I do and simple ways to make sure that you're keeping your Bitcoin super safe and super portable too.
Yeah, because I think that's the other thing. Because I know my dad has a lot of money in crypto, and he got like one of those physical wallets, and he has like the codes and everything. But he's like,
Yeah,
is dragging his feet because he's like, I just am terrified of transferring it onto the physical thing, like a physical wallet, and losing it.
yeah,
And so when I
yep,
come, I might even just bring him and then have him
yeah,
bring all
for
of his stuff,
sure.
and then that way he can
Yes,
get
that
that
would be
all
great.
transferred. Because then that was the other thing I was like, or sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Finish what you were saying.
No, it was funny because when Jonah was talking about that and, like, when we went to lunch, we were talking about that, I was like, "That's what I just need to do is drag my dad down there with me because I know he's in the same boat of, like, he has all these investments and all this crypto that's, like, some has done well and
Yeah.
then some have just freaking tanked and he's lost a lot of money." But it's like, it's still there and he still has it and he's like, "Well, I'm just gonna ride it out because there's no point in trying to do anything with it now. I might as well just see what
Yeah.
happens." But then, yeah, he's at that stage where, like, he has a physical, like, waivers or whatever, and it's just like poof. So
Yeah. And see, one of the things I would show him to do as well is like you would do it as setting up a new wallet, but I do a recovery test. Like working in cybersecurity back in the day, one of the things I saw people go through a lot, not a lot, enough though, they would have backup systems in place for their data, but then they never tested it out. And so they would get into an
mhm.
emergency where they had to back up or recover their data and it didn't work. And they're like, oh, what are we going to do? And so what we could do for you and what I do show people how to do when they first are setting up wallet, let's go through a backup test, right? Let's transfer a small amount of Bitcoin to that wallet. Let's use your recovery phrase to load it on another device and make sure that we see the same amount of Bitcoin there. And then we'll send a small amount of Bitcoin to another wallet to make sure that the private keys work to sign the transaction to make sure you can actually send. So the right
Mhm.
amount of Bitcoin's there and you're able to send. Once you've tested those things out, you're good, right? And we could do the same thing with your dad. We could set up a recovery test for his existing device and make sure that he's able to recover those assets somewhere else because there are some stresses that are unique to Bitcoin and the crypto world, like you're talking about, like, do I put it on there? What if I lose it? Like, how do I back this up? But I would say if he's already moved it to a hardware wallet, and yeah, I would want something personally better than he's got to have his recovery phrase written down on a piece of paper somewhere or something like
Yeah,
that.
he has all of that.
And so I would just rather have that in a metal format. You've already got it. Somebody could steal your paper and take those codes. But if you've got it on a metal wallet, yes, it could still possibly get stolen. But if your house catches on fire and they, put a million gallons to put out your house, it's waterproof and fireproof. Where that
Mhm.
paper it's toast, right? It's gone. So that's why I'm a big fan of that. And if you want to bring your dad over, I can totally
No,
walk you
yeah,
guys through
absolutely.
setting all that stuff up. That would be fun.
Perfect.
Cool.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Seriously, yeah, you've been a very big help.
Yeah. Glad to do it. I love doing stuff like this.